Okay, we're going live. It's a couple minutes before the witching hour. This is the Battle Axe Broadcast Network, brought to you, bringing you the original Angry Old Fat Broad. My Lionheart K9 in Maryland, and my husband, who is off screen, who will be monitoring any conversation that occurs because I can't see it. So basically, yeah, we're going to be waiting another minute or two. And my husband is sighing exasperatedly over here on the side because reasons. So what's going on?
That's all I got.
Well, what do you want me to do?
I don't know. I didn't want to.
There.
Oh, here we are.
You just had to go out and then go back in. It doesn't automatically populate time. So, okay. I'm going to minimize this screen somewhat because the flickering is making me insanio. We are broadcasting simultaneously on YouTube if you care. In the meantime, a couple of things that we're going to be bringing to you today. And I have to open because, yeah, for some reason, nothing is showing up. Yeah, this is awesome. This is great. This is just so fantastical. I can't stand it. Yeah, there we go. That's the righty. Hi Pete, how you doing?
Scissor heartbreaker.
So I'm trying to not view this simultaneously on my screen. Which I don't think I'm going to be able to. So, okay, let's get into it. A couple things first before we get into the meat. Shit for the image that I posted of the multiple dogs with the expression, whatever the original thing said, dogs before selective breeding, both publicly on my personal page somewhat and privately. And it's like, man, amazing how many people don't get it, right? So some folks that I'm aware of, they breed dogs, and I have some respect for because of the quality of dogs that they produce. But you're so caught up in the minutia of what it is that you do, you're not perceiving things the way the public sees them, which is one of the reasons why I selected this, because the vast majority of people who have complaints about dog breeding is the fad breeding for fashion as opposed to breeding for any purpose. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I understand this. And essentially, the person that basically created the internet for their own personal use, I just pirated it. I stole it. Hey, kill me now. Everyone steals everything anymore anyways. There's no such thing as, it's a license to steal as opposed to getting permission. What's that expression? It's easier to ask permission or ask forgiveness than it is to ask permission. So not thinking that there was going to be a big freaking stink over this, I posted it. Interestingly enough, and I think subconsciously it's why I posted it, I have owned dogs of every single breed portrayed there. I have owned pugs, I have owned bull terriers, and I have owned many, many German Shepherd dogs. It was just JQ rando, and something in my little, pig brain said, pick that picture. It's great, right? I wasn't going to change the heading, but I did anyways, because clearly people have a hard time being able to parse what I was trying to convey with what that thing said. So I didn't realize there were so many literal people out there who couldn't figure out that we're talking about not just cosmetics, but dogs in general, health specifically, temperament, absolutely, with looks being the last thing on the list. But, form following function and all that, but we'll get into it. First things first, couple of undone things. What did Renee say?
I don't know. I haven't seen a comment from Renee.
Okay, because there was a comment. But anyways, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on right now regarding e-collars and the prohibition or the proposed legislation in both San Francisco which I understand has been tabled until after the first of the year, which is when most legislation is actively pushed. And in the state of New York, where in the state of New York, it's just the sale and distribution. And in San Fran, of course, it's the use, period, regardless of where they're used. And I know a whole bunch of people, a bunch of talking heads, and a couple people who are very passionate about e-collars and whatnot, basically, making themselves known about the benefit of e-collars. And, the fact that they are actually, appropriate tools to use in a lot of circumstances. I have no problem with e-collars. I have no problem with the vast majority of tools that are being used currently in the training of dogs, as long as they're used appropriately. There are far fewer bad actors using e-collars than there are people who actually know how to use them correctly. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the vast majority of people, yeah, Josh, I see you. I think that they're really, really appropriate to use for a variety of circumstances. It has to be dogs who are, or owners who are overmatched by their dogs. We have a large number of, and I'm not going to, because I'm approaching my senior years. I know by no means consider myself to be a senior. I consider myself to be middle-aged, if anything. But, as I get older, and even though I'm a big woman and I'm a strong woman, I'm routinely overmatched by dogs that I see in training. And the best use of an e-collar is for helping to level the playing field. Now, that's not to blow the dog up like, Hoover Dam, but basically it's just to make sure that the owner is able to control the situation or control the dog in the situation they find themselves in. I feel the same way about prong collars. They're power steering, but as I've said many times, and I've said on many podcasts and Facebook Lives and places where I've been invited to speak, in a surgeon's hands, they're an appropriate tool. In a kludgy, ham-fisted hand, they're not. They're a weapon. So, choose wisely. When it comes to how to use these tools correctly, if you're a pet owner, they are not, the hellscape that the positive nation has painted them to be. They're actually a pretty effective tool that can be used humanely. Humanely being effective, without discomfort, and we'll get into that in a minute, and basically relatively efficient, right? You can achieve your goals not necessarily faster, but in certain aspects absolutely quicker than you can using traditional leash and collar methods. And the reason why is because I can control my dog without having to have him on a leash. Therefore, I can impact his behavior regardless of where he is related to, in relationship to me, at distances up to and including a half mile or more. Now, would I use it that way as a working dog person? Absolutely, because my dogs cast far away. I want to be able to impact their behavior before they are out of my reach. The e-collar extends my arm. I'm capable of being able to call my dogs back, direct them to move in towards different locations, and do things that I wouldn't be able to do because there's no such thing as a 400-yard leash, right? Hunting dog people, working dog people of all scopes, whether you're military, paramilitary, whether you're doing things recreationally, so on and so forth. And the disparity, between the positive only, and these are people who largely do not understand their own science. Putting your dog on a leash and collar is a consequence. That is positive punishment, especially if your dog keeps pulling on the end of the leash. So we have to be careful with how we parse language when we talk about these things, because it's not about making the dog uncomfortable. It's about helping the dog avoid discomfort. And this is, those of you who know me and those of you who train with me know that essentially this is the thing that we talk about when we're talking in terms of training dogs. We're allowing things to occur so that the dog can make a more informed choice going forward. This is how nature is constructed. Survival is predicated on your ability to overcome failure. It is not a guarantee of your success or because of your success. So there's that. And I really, really like e-collars for a variety of reasons. I see a lot of dogs who have gone through a number of different trainers. And by the time we get them, a lot of times what's happened is they've kind of been inundated with a bunch of ineffective training that has allowed them to self-reinforce. And that's a powerful motivator. And anyone here who is self-employed knows how powerful freedom is as a motivator to keep doing what you're doing. There's not a lot, especially now in this current political and economic climate. Being self-employed is something that you do because you're not suitable to work for others. Let's face it. And it's a powerful motivator. I need to keep doing what I'm doing because I'm not fit for consumption by others, period. So I have to figure out something that's going to keep me employed, keep me housed, and keep me fed. E-collars are a great way to break through dogs like that because it removes the necessity for human feedback. And although, yes, we're the ones tapping the button, so I don't want anyone losing their minds over that statement, it enables us to become emotionally inert, because this is the problem that most of these people have, or most of these dogs have, is the constant emotional feedback they're getting from their owners. So the e-collar enables us to be able to reach the dog without yanking on the leash, without barking commands and heel, sit, and all this other stuff. So there's that. I plan on doing a live in the future that's exclusively about e-collars and how we introduce them, but I need to create some video for that, which hopefully I'm going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. I apologize for my voice. For some reason, my voice has decided to start abandoning me in the last couple of weeks. Okay, so before we move on to the next topic, let's see if there's any questions about that so far.
Nothing.
Nobody's responding anywhere? There's no comments, statements, queries, nothing?
Josh said, "What's freedom?" Ha ha ha.
That's the only comment you can read.
That's it. Lee Clark said, "Let the education begin."
Wow, people, where are you? I can't believe I'm out
here.
here by myself. I see 9 comments.
Yeah. Hi. How you?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Fine. Whatever. All right. So basically, the next topic of conversation is the holidays. The holidays are upon us now. Thanksgiving is just a couple days away.
Katie said, "Wait."
I'm sorry.
Katie said, "Wait."
Katie said, "Wait for what?"
I don't know.
What am I waiting for, Katie? Okay, I'm moving on.
Okay.
All right. The holidays, right? So Thanksgiving is beside us. Now, the vast majority of people who are viewing this are either they are dog professionals, they've been involved with dogs in some meaningful way for a while, and they understand the risks associated with having your dog in large groups of people, having dogs that have relatively unstable, not necessarily unstable temperaments, but are a little suspicious or have some reactivity issues and things like that around large groups of people. Please do yourself a favor. Make sure your dog is crate conditioned so that you can put your dog in a crate and not have to worry about your dog overreacting and possibly biting, your great auntie Genevieve on the back of the leg because they did something, that the dog perceived as threatening. The food, obviously, right? Your dog can't eat your stuffing, okay? Your dog shouldn't be eating your butter-infused, herb-saturated turkey drippings and all that stuff, right? So if you want your dog to have a special treat, feed him a little bit of something that's, specially prepared for the dog. But when you make your pumpkin pies, take some of the pumpkin aside and without the seasoning, we don't need all the allspice in the pumpkin, put it in a little bowl with a little bit of plain yogurt, mix it up and stick it in freezer, stick it in the little ice cube trays in the freezer so the dog can have something snack worthy. It's not important for your dog to have snacks. It really isn't. It's important for your dog to not feel threatened, to feel comfortable in his own home, and to not basically, he doesn't need to be a part of the activity. The other thing is if you're going to people's homes, don't take your dog. Okay. Dogs don't perceive being guests or accommodating company the same way people do. And I have to tell you, if you take your dog to another person's home and that home has a dog in it, you're asking for trouble. Because even though those dogs might be besties and they play really well at the dog park, okay, taking that dog into another dog's home in the midst of all that food and all that activity is a completely different story, right? Out in the dog park, racing and chasing, there's not a lot of competition for resources. In a specific dog's home with all that food, you better be assured that there is. So you really, really, really need to be careful with these choices, right? You're making selfish choices based on human need. You're not making appropriate choices based on dog need. So, your dog's going to be home alone for 4 or 5 hours. That's okay. Hopefully, over the course of time, you have conditioned your dog to that process. If you absolutely have to take your dog with you when you go someplace, make sure you bring a crate, an appropriate supply of food, and keep your dog separated from the company as much as possible, because they just don't need that. It's a trying time. The vast majority of calls that we get after national or after big holidays, national holidays, religious holidays, whatever, are for dog bites, aggressive behavior, resource guarding, things like that. What?
Greg said he gives his dog liver and gizzard raw.
Liver and gizzard raw is good, but I eat the liver and gizzard, so I'm not giving that to a dog.
Now, Katie said, can I bring my dog along if I can use obedience? Downstay.
You can, as long as there's no other, as long as there's nothing there to compete for the dog or compete for the same resources as your dog. When things get hectic and there's going to be lots of people, especially with dogs like your dog, Katie, I would definitely have a safe space for this dog to retreat to so that she can get some rest. Make sense? Good. Okay. Christmas is coming. We're actually going to be doing a live about that too. Appropriate things for dogs, what to give as a gift to the dog lover in your life, and things you should put on your wish list to have for your own dogs. Look for that probably the second week of December, in time for you to be able to order things. I'm actually going to supply links for those as well, so that way you can purchase them outright. I do not have affiliate associations with any of the companies. I'm just small potatoes when it comes to that. Nobody's eager to give me money to tout their products. Basically, these are things that I found over the years to be relatively beneficial, outright enjoyable, and things that my dogs are able to use. The criterion for me are they have to be reasonably inexpensive, not cheap. But basically, if I'm spending $150 on something, it's got to last me more than a season. It has to be durable, because I have 2 mega chewers, one of whom doesn't chew at all. And I have a host of client dogs who are also mega chewers. So we're looking to satisfy those requirements as well. And things that are basically easy, they're hygienic, they're easy to clean, they're easy to maintain. So that way I can keep an eye on them, discard them when they start getting worn, so on and so forth. Up until my dog Spider, I had the same basket of Kongs that I've been using for probably 5 or 6 years now. Since Spider, I don't have any. He has decimated the big wolf Kongs. He can eat them in a matter of a couple of days. So when we talk in terms of toys, we talk in terms of toys that dogs like Spider cannot destroy quickly. Ultimately, they're all destroyable. There's no such thing as a dog-proof toy. But basically, we talk about both appropriately interactive toys and pacifier toys. So we're going to be moving into that in the next couple of weeks as well. Okay, so here's the big ticket item. Basically, we're talking about getting a dog, getting a decent dog, getting a dog that's appropriate for you, the consumer. Breeders, well, let's preface this by saying, this is the point in time where I piss everybody I know off, right? So there's going to be people who are like, adopt, don't shop. I don't adhere to that. I think it's kind of erroneous, especially considering the number of dogs who are making their way into the public sector that are dangerous. They're dangerous dogs. This whole no-kill shenanigans, where these dogs are being filtered out the back door to kind of nebulous, unsavory rescue types, where these dogs are finding their way into homes that are horribly unprepared for the type of animal that they're getting. And a comment that I had made the last live that I did about, the 60-year-old woman and her 90-year-old mother do not need to adopt that 7-year-old scarred up, battle breed that just recently got neutered 5 days, before he came to their home. He's heartworm positive because he was dredged up from the south and all these other things. So, ultimately, the responsibility rests with the consumer. And we all know this. As professionals, we all know this. It's our job to educate, however. So it's important to try and intervene as much as possible when it comes to helping people select the right dog for them. And this is where I'm going to start making people really, really angry, right? We're going to use Labrador retrievers. This is our example. So, you know, I'm a big lab fan. I love working with retrievers. I love doing retriever work, hunt test, field trials, any opportunity I have to do that. I'm probably as close to heaven as I'm ever going to get. And basically, there's probably at least 5 or 6 different types of retriever. And what I mean by that is people see, you know, the Retriever Super Series on the Outdoor Channel, or they go to the dog show and see these fat potatoes walking around on their toothpick legs. And they're like, oh my, you know, I want the dog that my neighbors had when I was a kid. Well, when I was a kid was 60 years ago. And the dog that my neighbors had was a high drive hunting dog that lived outdoors behind the shed in a kennel run that the male owner, you know, the male resident of that household took out every weekend and shot over, right? It was a multi-purpose dog. He didn't just hunt, you know, he didn't just retrieve ducks and geese. He hunted upland birds and so on and so forth. So this is an active dog with an active lifestyle and an active home, right? Those dogs still exist. They exist in large numbers, okay? And then we have the showbred lab. And this is a dog who basically looks really good in the Orvis advertisement for the Orvis magazine, laying in front of that hearth, chewing on it, you know, laying on his Orvis dog bed, chewing on his Orvis dog chew, right? That's the potatoes that we're talking about. These are, you know, and again, I'm not advocating for that extreme, but if you're looking for a pet, that's the dog you're looking for. You're looking for the potato. The vast majority of people do not and cannot handle the working drive dog. Now, if you're like my friends Nate and Gretchen, my friend Josh, my training colleague and friend Dave, myself in my younger years, if you have the temerity to have a working dog, by all means, but do yourself a favor and make that commitment, because there's some things that are associated with that. And you have to be sure that you make the commitment, or as I've said, that was left on this page, those dogs are going to end up in a shelter. And all the people who train dogs professionally are starting to see large numbers of people with Malinois. How's that working out for you? If you don't know what I'm talking about, thinking about that will, right? So then there's the other type of labs. There's, you know, several grades, right? So you have the top tier of your high drive working dog, and then you have your showbred dog. And even below the high drive working dog, you have, you know, hunt test dogs, field trial dogs, hunt test dogs, and your meat dog, right? Meat dogs and showbred dogs. Meat dogs are still capable of going out and you know, bringing home the bag limit for the day. But again, there's some trade-offs for that. You have to give that dog meaningful employment. And if you're not capable of doing that, please, for all that is holy, don't get one. And then there's the pet bred dogs, right? These are dogs who somewhere in the pedigree may have had working ancestors, but there's nothing there in the first three generations. And, you know, the dogs that are bred for color, I'm not going to mince words. Silver Lab is not a lab. It's a mixed bred. It's a lab mix. Genetics have proven that. It's nowhere apparent, you know, anywhere with these dogs that they are purebred dogs. And, you know, they're being touted as such. I have yet to see a Silver Lab do well in a field trial or hunt test. Although, you know, I don't know. I can't hit them all. So I can't guarantee that that's not true. But the likelihood of that occurring, and now with Labrador breeders, conscientious Labrador breeders, actually looking for genetic typing that indicates whether or not that particular dog has that particular gene, those dogs aren't getting bred. So let's advertise them for what they are and sell them for what they are, okay? But here's the thing. You get these dogs who are half showbred, half field bred, okay? Within that litter is going to be so much variation. You have to be sure that the person that you're purchasing that dog from knows how to grade that litter appropriately to be assured that you get the right dog for you. If you live in a high-rise apartment in New York City, you really don't want a lab. You don't, of any stripe, just by virtue of the fact that the first year or two those dogs are alive, they need concentrated effort to make them decent house dogs. It's the rare example of a Labrador Retriever without work being a great house dog before 18 months, 2 years of age. I know, I'm going to hear it. Oh, well, my dog was, blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. I've trained more Labradors than you've seen in your lifetime, but that's okay. You go ahead with that fantasy. What makes a good pet dog? Okay, a dog that is temperamentally and physically suitable for life as a pet. He shouldn't be going to the vet every couple of days because of allergies or epilepsy or some insidious skin disease that he got by virtue of the fact of being something like a Shar-Pei bred to a Neapolitan Mastiff, bred to a Bulldog, right? And, there are certain things that you have to know about genetics. Right now, there's a popular thing right now happening in Frenchies. There's two popular things happening right now. Crossing them with Bostons and breeding them to dogs that create coat and merle, right? And these dogs are being sold for tens of thousands of dollars because they're champagne, long-coated champagne merle Frenchies, right? It doesn't occur in the breed. Is it helpful to the breed? Not with the merle gene. It's not. If you want a coated Frenchie, Japanese chins, right? There's other breeds out there that are very similar anatomically and personality-wise that don't require taking one group of genes and colliding them into another group of genes. Because here's what happens. You breed, this whole F1, F2 BS with the whole doodle thing, right? Here's the thing that people don't understand. If you're breeding garbage to garbage, you're getting more garbage. I personally do not have a problem with the deliberate crossing of breed A to breed B, as long as several criteria are met. Are they temperamentally compatible? Are they similar? Does one have the same genetic predispositions as the other, which is a big no for me, right? Do they have enough physiological similarities to where I'm not creating genetic freaks like these frickin' toad bulldogs and all these other just genetic nightmares, right? And these dogs cost thousands of dollars and they cost their owners tens of thousands of dollars in healthcare throughout their lives. And they have short, miserable, ugly little lives, right? They may be cherished pets, but they are cherished pets for a brief period because they die so young and of insidious disease. German Shepherd dogs, everybody's favorite. I bred them. I've owned them for years. I've owned dozens and dozens of Shepherds. I love the breed. I will not own them any longer. If Labradors have a lot of different types, German Shepherds have not only different types, but they have different useful levels of usefulness, right? So everybody likes to slag on the showbred dogs. Everybody, okay? I get it. I understand. Everybody likes to slag on the pet bred, shit bred dogs that we see coming out of, Missouri and Amish country and Pennsylvania and all these different places, because these dogs are, they're not only are they unthrifty, they're mentally unhealthy, they're mentally unsound, and they're dangerous. I don't know about you fellow trainers, but the number one breed of dog that we see for aggression remediation to this day, unfailingly, throughout 40 years plus of professional training, have been German Shepherds. Of those, the vast majority of good ones, I can count on these two hands. I know the breeders for most of them, or know of the breeders for most of them. I can count those on one hand. And basically, it's really, really important to remember, if you want a dog like that, Malinois, Shepherd, any of your working breeds, you have choices, right? This is not to advocate to go to a show breeder, but if you're a sloth like me, who basically at this point in time does a little bit of recreational training with her own dogs, but for the most part, I'm a stay-at-home, type person. I don't go out. I don't go to dog events. I don't do these things. I want a dog primarily as a companion. I might like the look of a German Shepherd, so I'm going to go to excuse me. Uh, oh, I'm dying here. I'm going to go to a breeder that I know, or I'm going to research a breeder until I find one that has dogs that are temperamentally suitable for my lifestyle. I'm not going high test. I did that. I don't need it anymore. I'm not going show type because it's just not the dog for me. I want to go for a reasonable breeder, and I'm not going to the working dog breeders because, even if the dog that I get is not of the caliber that that breeder is looking for to continue their breeding program, you still have all that energy going home with you. And this is where breeders make big mistakes and where breeders are getting bad names. Stop placing dogs in inappropriate homes. I personally have no problem with saying, no, I'm sorry, I don't think you're the home for one of my dogs. I've done it. I've been there. I've been told I was not an appropriate home. But, hey, there you go. Here I am, right? I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on dogs, and I've got some of my best dogs for free, right? But the thing is basically the one advantage that I have is I know how to make that dog suitable for my household. The vast majority of pet owners do not. Do not. So when we're talking about suitability for dogs in pet homes, we must, as a community, help owners understand what is the best type of dog for them. Now, I know my training colleague, Mark Connolly, just recently got a new dog, a poodle pointer, and I have a cute story about that because I had a poodle pointer in for training. As a matter of fact, she's coming to stay with us for an extended board over the holidays, and she's a lovely, lovely dog. She comes from a breeder in California. Her litter sister, is an accomplished, I believe she's a master hunter, and she's her owner's recreational hunter as well. And she's a lovely dog. Bronx, lovely dog. I had her somewhere, and someone asked me what she was, and I said, this is a poodle pointer. I go, and they turn around immediately and looked at me and said, oh, another doodle. And I'm like, no, this is a poodle pointer. A pointer doodle? No. This is a poodle, P-U-D-E-L, pointer. It's an old continental breed. It's been around for many hundreds of years. Did not grasp that this could actually be a purebred dog with any kind of provenance whatsoever. Could not understand it, right? But the thing is, though, is Bronx came to me. How old is Bronx? Like 4.
Yeah.
She's older. She's a mature adult. She came to us for training for one reason and one reason only. I will give a free 30-minute consult to the person who can guess why that dog came to me with accuracy. Some of you know, and if you're a professional trainer, you don't want to consult from me anyways, but try and figure out why this dog came to me. I gave you all the background already, right? I'm going to give you a couple of hints. Her owners live down at the Eastern Shore. Lovely couple. I love them. They're great. Conscientious owners, and they're all doing all the right things. But they have lots of aspirations and no time. So here's this mature adult poodle pointer who is looking for go. Anything? Oh my God, you people.
The last comment is Mark Connolly just jumping in.
Hi, Mark. I just mentioned your name.
They were going back and forth about Malinois.
Oh yeah.
Beaucherons and
yeah, Beaucherons are other ones, right? I had I've had several I've absolutely adored. Seriously contemplated getting one for myself. Looked at the dogs that I already had in my little compound, in my little community, and said this would just be a bad idea, right? So yeah, there's that. But I'll stick with my sporting dogs. I'll stick with my pointers. I'll stick with my retrievers because they're as high test as I want to go. Spider, he's got pants ants really bad. He's got a lot of get up and go. He's just over a year old. We're trying to give him as much work as his ambition can handle. Sometimes that falls by the wayside because, reasons. Access to birds being primary of those reasons.
What? Clark says, what about Goldador?
Goldador?
Goldador.
You know what?
Josh said mutt.
Mutt is a mutt, right? But the thing is, though, is basically purposefully bred. I don't have a problem with Goldadors or Golden Labrador mixes, which they are actually. There's a lot of service dog companions, canine companions for independence being one, who deliberately breed these. What is their, and I've seen the CCI go from a high rate of dogs being placed successfully into working homes and a lot of attrition where less than 50% of them are being placed in homes. Whether that's a breeding issue or whether that's a training issue, right? But basically, yeah, there's a couple, and I never thought I would say this, so you're hearing it here first, live, right? We have a young dog downstairs we've had 3 mixed breed dogs come through here, purposefully bred mixed breed dogs, in the last couple of months that the breeders are doing the right things, right? And I'm calling them breeders because they're doing the right things. They're genetically health screening both parents for all of the things that could be known in that breed. Like poodles have a laundry list of genetic influences that pepper, and they're a relatively long-lived breed. The retrievers, they're doing health testing that's appropriate for retrievers as well before they're combining these. 2 of these dogs that we've recently received have been minis. One was a mini Aussie Bernedoodle thing, right? Lovely little dog. He actually came relatively locally bred. When we first met him, he smelled like a dirty hamster cage, but he cleaned up really nice. And he was fastidiously clean, very bold, not shy at all, had a great temperament. And his owners indicated that he was pretty indicative of the entire litter. So there's, how to select appropriately. If you absolutely have to have one of these designer mixes, there's things that you can absolutely search for. The second one is a pup we have downstairs right now who's just absolutely adorable. She is a mix, and she actually is from Canada. And apparently the breeder is fairly well known. When she brought this, she actually drove this puppy down, which before anyone's like, well, she wouldn't let people come up there. I don't, that's not necessarily the case. Canada still is kind of, doesn't really like the US right now because we're harbingers of COVID disease and everything else. So they're really reluctant unless you have a reason to be there. Going to pick up a puppy, it would qualify, I think, as commerce, but they're probably going to turn you away at the door. It's easier for them to come here than it is for us to go there, especially for something like picking up a puppy. But she brought several across, I think 4. Several of them, one went to New York, one came down here to Maryland, and 2 went to New England. And lovely dogs, absolutely lovely dogs. I would have absolutely no problem referring this person. Quality animals, quality in, quality out. Where she got her foundation stock, I don't know, but she screened for it. I know that. So, there's that. And as many people who say that, crossbreeding dogs deliberately for money is unscrupulous, I agree 98% of the time, right? But here's the thing, it's going to happen. So we may as well accommodate that and start supporting the people who do it well. The third dog was, who was the third dog? We just had all 3 of them here recently. Anyways, there was a third one, but also very nice. And actually, this dog was relatively local from a breeder that's in the eastern part of Maryland, who did a very nice job. Same thing. This is like a multiple generations. So she did health testing that were appropriate for the types of dogs that she's breeding. And the puppies are healthy, super sound, very well socialized. There's a bunch of different things, and I know a lot of people who don't agree with this, and that's okay too. Again, this is my opinion. I'm entitled to it. You can disagree all you want. There's a thing, the Avidog test, that a lot of breeders are implementing to help grade litters. And there's certain things that people do in order to help facilitate appropriate age or behavior related to age in puppies once their ears and eyes open, and so on and so forth. I believe in the SuperDog test. I believe in the SuperDog conditioning, the early neural imprinting. I know a lot of people are like, it's garbage, there's no science, blah, blah, blah. I personally will not buy from a breeder who doesn't do it, right? I want to see evidence of it. And I have to say, I've done several litters as a tester for several litters recently, that it does tell a great deal. Does it tell you what that dog is going to be like as an adult if you do nothing else? Absolutely not. It's one moment on that day But as a breeder, it's an excellent tool, especially if you're looking for these behavioral benchmarks as the dog matures before you start placing them in their appropriate homes. Saw a lovely litter bred by my friends Nate and Gretchen of Klein Munsterlanders. I have never seen. I'm exceptional bitch, obviously bred to an exceptional dog, but each puppy, one was just better than the next, right? There was not a pig in the bunch. And I mean, these dogs have all gone on. My personal pick puppy was a puppy that they kept back for themselves. He's turned out to be quite the little man. And another puppy that I had my eye on as a superstar is proving to be that in her home. Is it an indicator? When it comes to breeders looking at their own litters, there is such a thing as kennel blindness, but having an external source come in and help you actually grade the litter based on certain benchmarks, certain criteria, I think is an excellent, excellent tool. So I would look into it. And if you don't, because it is kind of spendy, if it's as a breeder, if it's something that you want to do in order to help promote your dogs to the best of your ability and make sure that you're on the right track with producing the right quality based on your criterion. If it's working dogs, it's working dogs. If it's not working dogs, it's not working dogs. You're breeding for a community of people who have children, busy lifestyles, and not a lot of patience, right? So you need to make sure that the dog you provide is able to accommodate those environmental needs, right? So breeding, again, picking the right dog for you. Does this discount shelters and rescues? No, it does not. But what you have to remember is if you're picking a dog from a shelter or a rescue, go in with your eyes open, right? Love does not save them from themselves, okay? Love's got nothing to do with it. It's all, I'm a pragmatist when it comes to stuff like this. You want to build that relationship right away, start working on obedience, right? And the reason why is because it's going to tell you who that dog is right away. And I'm not talking, pounding on the dog and leash corrections and all this other nonsense. What I'm talking about is being able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Being able to assess who that dog is without conflict, right? Without emotional my poor baby, oh my God, he was so abused. The dog doesn't care, right? All he wants is for you to give him 2 hots and a cot, right? Invite someone that is familiar with dogs to go with you to select. And don't be upset if the dog you have your eye on doesn't turn out to be the best dog for you. If you absolutely have to have this dog, be prepared to start working with the dog right away. And I know there's a bunch of BS that's being floated around because shelters and rescues say it. But basically it's like that, 2-week lockdown period. Bullshit. Right? It's not a 2-week lockdown period. That dog is under leash and collar management and crate confinement until he establishes himself as a easily controllable member of a larger community. End of discussion, right? Most people don't understand the whole 2-week lockdown nonsense anyways, because the first thing they're doing is inviting Bruno and Fluffy into their bed because they feel so sorry for him. In the middle of the night, someone starts squeaking, and all of a sudden the human gets restless and pissed off because they can't get any sleep. And guess where Bruno and Fluffy end up living? In the bed. So then, that's where problems come. That's where problems start. So, being able to approach this rationally is important. Being able to approach this with some information is even more important. It's necessary. This is no longer an age where we can basically just go and pluck a dog out of some environment and make it a house pet. People are dying. This isn't a joke. This is absolutely true. People are dying. People are being brought home, or people are bringing dogs home from wherever, and they're getting injured or they're getting killed, right? So again, topics for another conversation at another time, unless someone wants to jump in and have a conversation with me about it now. Any takers? Yeah, I agree, Mark. I think that more breeds should have a natural ability test. What the hell, man? Prior to 12 months, herding and sporting and so on and so forth. I love France. And the reason I love France is because they actually do that. If your dog is a working breed, they have to have some form of working title before they're even eligible to compete in conformation. Right? chasing the birds off the beaches with no recall. I actually had a dog who was trained to clear golf courses from geese. Cotton, my English pointer from years ago. I was just looking back. He would have been 20 years old this month, as a matter of fact. So basically, it's been a minute. But we lived near a golf course, and he was tasked with clearing it. He could handle just like a retriever. So it was really nice to just watch him roll. Jess is looking for a job. Where are you looking for a job? Or your dog looking for a job? They're constantly, dogs are constantly looking for work. It's like I said, my English pointer Spider right now, he's looking for a job right now. Right now, his job is going to be sit in the truck and wait because he's a noise-making scrit. Okay, so anybody want to join me? No, I don't think we would be out of business, Josh. I don't think we would be out of business at all. I think we'd actually have meaningful work that didn't frustrate us. I could go back to training working dogs all day, every day. Yeah, no, rescues don't care, Greg. Shelters don't either. Their interest is in getting the dogs out the door. Yeah, this is basically something that's going to really infuriate a lot of people. And I don't really care. I'll be honest with you. I could give two shits about what other people think. Shelters basically they have never been required. And the reason I know this is because I was on the steering committee for a program that's currently being used many, many, many years ago. And one of the things that's never been required, and this was by design, was if a dog is brought into a shelter, whatever the source, whether it's animal control pickup, dropped off, owner surrender, abandoned at the shelter, what have you, right? Born at the shelter, what have you. Doesn't matter. So the dog is chipped and sent out. He's adopted. If that dog comes back, we can track it internally, but we don't have to post the numbers. So the same dog can be counted 7, 8, 9, 10, however many times he's returned to the shelter. He's not coming back as the same dog. He's going out as a different dog, if that makes sense. So the numbers that you're seeing are inflated. Prove me wrong. I defy anyone to prove me wrong. On a side note, you look much healthier and happier of late. Hair looks nice. I forgot an apple, so that is the best I got. Actually, I've kind of gone off the wagon here this last week because it's Thanksgiving. And eggnog, you glugging on that frickin' eggnog, Connolly, I put that at your feet directly, you animal. Or no, that wasn't you. That was John out in D.C. or Washington State. Sparks glugging it like crazy. I can't pass up eggnog. It's the closest I'm going to get to dessert this year. So I've had a couple of shots of eggnog and basically been off the wagon. You chugged a pint yesterday, you animal. Shame on you. So. But yeah, we ran out, so we'll have to run to the store and get some. But that's my big thing. Is this time of year it's hard for me to not cook. It makes it easier for me to not eat. But yeah, I miss it. I want to just dive into some kind of creamy pumpkin pie and giant vats of stuffing, and I just can't do it. But thank you, Joe. No, they don't refund the adoption fees. So I have a story to tell. It was a dog rescue that I worked for, or shelter I worked for many, many years ago. We had one dog. He was part of a large seizure, and he had been adopted out and bitten 11 times while I was there. 11. That's this many plus one, right? And they kept on adopting him out until finally someone made the command decision to euthanize the dog because it was just going to be unsuccessful. Okay. Because he was small and cute and white and fluffy, his adoption fee every time he went out was over $400. Do the math. Help me not go out of business fund. Yeah, you can help me not go out of business. Okay, that's your responsibility. Do better, right? So basically, I know this is kind of impromptu. I planned on doing it a little bit better, but I didn't. I was kind of hoping that the people that wanted to give me shit about it privately would have the nuts to stand up to me in public, but I guess not. So there you go. That's pretty much it. unless someone wants to jump on. Josh, I know that we had talked about you coming on tonight, but I don't have the opportunity. I'm not going to have the opportunity to do it this evening. Anyone want to say anything? Tell me I can, jump in a lake of fire. Anything? All right. I'll wait a couple more minutes if there's any more questions, and then we're going to sign off. In the interim, if I don't get an opportunity to say howdy do to any of you guys before the holiday, have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you pretty soon. Probably next week, as a matter of fact. I'll plan another one. And yeah, Josh, employee coaching and listening. Is that what you're doing now? Is that you're stiffing me one more time? Is that what you're saying? I'm not good enough for you? Is that what you're saying? Fine, Wiggins. I see you. I see you. Yeah, I'm getting them all here. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. If that's it, then basically we're going to call it a day, and I hope you all have a real nice week. Take care. Bye.